is going to be moved back into after C3 Herman's Nursery. The applicant is going to be a little bit late because of some other commitments.
Sorry.
First item on the agenda, Lutheran Care Network, seeker review, preliminary subdivision site plan and aquatic resource permit hearing for amendment to a previously approved master plan. The applicant has asked us to adjourn the public hearing on this until April. So do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the public hearing for Lutheran Care Network be adjourned till April 16th, 2015. I call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 5. Motion's 5-0. Okay, the next item on the agenda is Marist College North Campus Housing. We're going to do Marist College North Campus Housing and Marist College Parking Improvements St. Anne's together tonight. Marist College North Campus Housing, seeker review, site plan hearing, and waterfront consistency review for two-phased 789-bed student housing project, including administrative and classroom facilities, parking improvements, so on and so forth. 3399 North Road, zoned IN institutional and WD-1 waterfront overlay districts, 12.8 acres. Type 1 action, Marist College owner, and Marist College parking improvements, St. Anne's, seeker review, site plan hearing, and waterfront consistency review for expanded parking and reconfigured access road on Marist property at the northern end of the campus, west of Route 9, 3399 North Road, zoned IN institutional and WD waterfront overlay districts, 26.5 acres. Type 1 action, Marist College owner. Now, we're doing a combined vote on the seeker for the two projects. It's a combined seeker, and then we will do the site plan review individually for the two. Do you have anything to present?
Yes, we do. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, thank you for having us here this evening. Just for the record, I'm Jeff Brackett, Executive Vice President at Marist College. With me is Justin Butwell, Director of Physical Plant, John Andrews, our civil engineer on the project, and Kevin Smith, partner at Robert A.M. Stern Architects, who will be leading the discussion on the matters before you today. I'll ask John Andrews to come up first and present the materials under his purview.
Good evening. My name, again, for the record, is John Andrews. I'm a New York State licensed professional engineer. I'm with the firm of Rohde, Soika, and Andrews here in Poughkeepsie, New York. We're keeping it kind of low-tech and simple this evening, so I will try to keep, and I have been asked to keep it relatively quick. There are two projects in front of you on behalf of Marist. One is the North Campus Housing Project. The other is St. Anne's. One of the items I think that requires kind of explanation is these have been pursued as two separate applications. The reason being, if you were to review your records, we made application for St. Anne's probably in March of this year. It was our anticipation to push St. Anne's forward, get it done, and get it out of the way before we were prepared for North Campus Housing. For a variety of reasons, that did not occur. Some of them were our own, some of them were generated by comments, but by deferring things, they have now come due, if you will, at the same time. That is the reason why you are looking at a combined seeker. They occupy relatively the same place and space. St. Anne's is immediately north of the North Campus Housing. They kind of have an overlapping purpose. Originally, St. Anne's was to supplement parking on Marist College. Now it is to replace some of the parking that's being lost as a consequence of the development of the North Campus Housing. So it is appropriate, and your staff correctly identified it, that they be reviewed for their impacts together. That's why we're doing a seeker. Staff was kind enough to allow us to continue with two separate applications rather than refile another mound of paperwork to make them one. So we thank you for that. We've been able to address, I think, most of the concerns that have been raised. We did submit a draft SWIP. The SWIP, as with some of the other documents, covers both pieces together. It treats them together. We will probably need to make some amendments to address the fact that there may be some overlapping disturbances, which may, for a short period of time, cause us to exceed 5 acres, but we're not quite sure of that yet. The next big issue is kind of a one, and I must confess that took me somewhat by surprise. Having worked on Marist for the better part of my professional career, the town of Poughkeepsie adopted new floodplain maps. And those floodplain maps were dated May 2nd, 2012. Interestingly enough, there is an unnumbered A zone, a 100-year floodplain that extends through the Marist College North Campus. It actually starts across Route 9, crosses a section of Route 9, runs through the campus, and continues all the way out to the Hudson River. It was identified by staff. It's shown on the new maps. It's something we've never had to address before. It was not shown on the previous maps. It was a federal map, but back then they had a Zone X, which was kind of like one of those no harm, no foul zones. But interestingly enough, after it was discovered, we met with staff. We had a variety of discussions with your floodplain administrator. We both set off and did some research, and we were able to find that in both historic Marist records and records of the town of Poughkeepsie, this matter was previously addressed. Back when the existing Gartland Commons was actually constructed in the 1984-1985 timeframe, the then town engineer, Joe Grogan, addressed this. I don't think the town actually had floodplain guidelines then, but there were federal guidelines in place that the town did comply with. At that time, Mr. Grogan made a determination that the floodplain elevation in the vicinity of Gartland Commons is at or about elevation 88. When they adopted the new floodplain, make it simple, they changed datums a little bit in order to adjust things. Based on Mr. Grogan's determination and the current datum used, that floodplain elevation would be about elevation 87. All of our proposed buildings meet or exceed that elevation. In fact, the lowest first floor elevation on any building is 93.5, almost 5.5 feet above that. The only oddball issue is that a portion of Building A does have a basement. The basement floor elevation is below the 87 elevation. We will need to flood-proof that or otherwise demonstrate that it adequately meets your code. That is an action that takes place by the building inspector at such time as we make the application for the building permit. So we're still working through that with your building department, who acts as the floodplain administrator. We believe it can be accomplished, and other than that, we meet or exceed it. The real interesting problem for us is that the 87 contour doesn't in any way, shape, or form resemble the floodplain that's delineated on the official floodplain maps. The best we can come up with, that predates a lot of activity that occurred on Marist College before Marist even owned it. So it's just an anomaly, and the 87 contour, actually, if you were to follow it today, I think you're all familiar with the stone wall that's kind of at the back of this phase. The 87 is essentially the bottom of that stone wall, believe it or not. So all of the buildings and everything else is well above it. It's just an interesting anomaly. A couple other things is, this is, North Campus housing is proposed as 2-phase. St. Anne's is proposed as 1-phase. There's kind of an overlapping issue here. Both St. Anne's and North Campus housing will start as soon as is reasonably practical after we satisfy all the approval requirements. So the minute these maps get signed, it is proposed to proceed with Phase 1 and St. Anne's. St. Anne's is a very quick process. St. Anne's we intend to pursue straight through to completion and render that a parkable surface as soon as possible. The reason being is we need to take offline the parking associated with Phase 1. If you will recall, back in November, Marist did a parking presentation to the board. That parking presentation kind of addressed the before and after construction, if you will, not only for these two projects, but for the project that is currently under construction, the Natural Science and Allied Health Building. What was kind of a little vague at that point in time is how we were actually going to pursue this and what we were going to do with traffic during construction and parking during construction. If you remember, the key feature of the Marist parking presentation was the change in Marist policy regarding the ability of students to have cars on campus. That policy takes effect in the September semester coming up, September 2015. That will free up over 375 spaces, and between what we're doing here, what we're doing over at Natural Science and Allied Health, we more than adequately cover the loss of parking space during the construction process. However, we are faced with a dilemma, is that we still have to finish the yet-to-start spring term 2015, which will not be covered by that. So what we propose to do is get St. Anne's ready as soon as possible. That accounts for approximately 120 to 25 of the spaces. And then North Campus housing, one of the things that we submitted was a geotechnical analysis. To prepare that site for construction, we have to undertake an activity which is known as dynamic compaction. Simply put, we're going to raise a weight to about 50 foot in the air and drop it and make a dent in the ground, and that's going to help us improve the ground. To do that, we have to move through the site in a systematic fashion. There isn't enough firms to do multiple locations at the same time, so it's one firm doing the whole thing. So we will gradually move across this particular project site. It will allow us to keep parking spaces in service until we need to take them out of service. So it's going to be a shell game, if you will, up to Marist to control. Those of you who have worked with us before, you know we're pretty good at that shell game of moving parking spaces, so we think it's not going to present a problem. And the interesting thing is, when you're done dynamic compaction, what you have to do is you have to, what they do call a finishing pass. They flatten out the surface and then they put a gravel on it. We can park on that gravel. We intend to park on that gravel. So once we're going to start it, probably phase A, work our way around the site, and as phase A gets ready, we'll move cars back in there. So it's going to be a shuffle. But remember, the term ends in May. So by the time the term ends, there might be a couple-week period whereby there might be some real fast shuffling we have to do to keep the cars, the parking straightened out. But we believe that that's a relatively small window. And then once we're through this term, next term, the new parking policy takes place. The additional demand that may be occasioned by the Natural Science and Allied Health building doesn't start to phase in until that's operational, which is 2016 January. So we've got some windows for us to improve and control parking. The other thing is, I think you're all aware, we own 51 Fulton Street. 51 Fulton Street has a rather extensive area of pavement. That is going to be where the contractors park. You're going to say, wow, the contractors aren't going to park there. Well, in matter of fact, if they're going to work on the project, they are going to park there. That's part of it. And they will be obligated to transport their people either by walking or through their own arrangements, shuttling them to the various construction sites. That's a condition of construction. The construction managers in both Natural Science and Allied Health have bought into that. So that's the proposal. So that will help us control our student population, which is more important to us. And I think the last thing that was addressed was traffic. We did do a traffic study. We did submit it. DOT has kind of signed off on it. I believe Mr. Pearson has reviewed it. He had some questions. Hopefully they've been answered. I believe I saw an exchange of memos earlier this evening that said that perhaps they have been. But I think the key point here is the whole purpose of North Campus housing is basically threefold, and it just bears repeating. Number one, it's to replace the existing outdated Gartland Commons housing complex. Number two, as you may be aware, there are approximately between 100 and 150 students that are currently housed by Marist College at the Residence Inn. We would very much like them back on campus. And then the last thing is, it is Marist's goal to approximately offer housing to about 80% of their undergraduate population. We're not there yet. So the additional spaces are basically to encourage students that now live in the community to come back onto campus. Having said all that, any student that currently lives off campus, they already drive to campus one way, shape, or form. We're already obligated with parking them in one way, shape, or form. But the interesting thing is, the minute they move back on campus, they become under Marist rules and regulations, and that change in policy and other things, they all become required to comply. So it is our hope and our belief that rather than, since this is not an expansion of facilities, but rather a kind of accommodation to what our existing population already is, that we're actually going to be traffic neutral and parking neutral in the long run. And I believe everything we've presented to date has substantiated that. And I think that's all I need to say, unless you got any questions.
I hope this compaction isn't going to put the thing down below 87 feet.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't change any of the elevations we're proposing. We have to fill to achieve those elevations, so don't worry about that. Thank you.
Thank you, Rich.
Neil, Eric?
Let's see, staff have been working with the consultant on this, and I think we'll let Liz talk unless you have, is there more that you wanted to say?
Oh, would you like Kevin Smith to present now, or you have questions for John? or-
Well,
That's architectural review.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, let's work through site plan
Okay.
first, and I'll let Liz run through. The staff we've worked closely with the applicant and the consultants, and we have prepared a drafts of potential approvals and a secret negative declaration for consideration tonight, and I'll let Liz speak to that.
Yeah, not to repeat anything, but basically, the initial submittal between the environmental summary and the visual EAF addendum and the narrative and the elevations addressed a lot of issues in LWRP and in the seeker review in terms of visibility, aesthetics, and effect on the waterfront. And then since I wrote comments on January 9th, more information was submitted about the floodplain, stormwater, and some of the floodplain and stormwater information addressed issues in coastal consistency review. So Eric and Neil and I conferred back and forth, and basically, long story short is, I think that the St. Anne's and North Campus project are ready for seeker negative declaration if the board is inclined. So we've prepared a seeker negative declaration. And then also in both reviews, we've recommended, if the board is in agreement, that the planning board grant conditional site plan approval and consider waterfront consistency review. There aren't a lot of comments remaining on the St. Anne's plan. There are a few more on the North Campus plan. That's it.
Don, do you have any comments?
One of the things that was outstanding the other day when we talked was a SWIP. It was in, but we hadn't looked at it yet. We have looked at it, as John mentioned. There is a question about the 5 acres, and in the long run, we're hoping that they just bite the bullet and say that they're going to be over 5 acres for the period of construction, and just do weekly inspections. But we'll continue to work that out. But that's where we're headed, we think.
To be quite honest with you, if I may, we wrestled with that, and I reached the same conclusion that Mr. Beer just reached, that the reality is, as fast as we can dance and as much as we can manage things, at some point during phase 1, before St. Anne's is completed, we will exceed 5 acres of disturbance in this general area. So we will rework the SWIP to indicate that we will do inspections twice a week during that process. We will expedite any ability to restore things. We don't expect it to be a long period of time, but I'm going to be blunt with you, it's going to happen. So we appreciate the comment from your town engineer, and we will take care of it.
That's it, Rich.
Richard, do you have any comments?
Yes. I had reviewed the traffic study initially prepared by Mazer. I had 6 comments asking for supporting information on that traffic study. The information has been provided. 4 of the comments were addressed by Mazer Associates in their letter dated January 9th, and then the remaining 2 comments were addressed by John Andrews' office in a letter dated January 13th. The information they provided is what I was looking for, and I'm satisfied with the information they've provided.
This is a public hearing. do you have a?
Yeah, just in the paper that you received today, there are also comments from the Dutchess County Department of Planning, received a required referral, and on both projects, they indicated they're a matter of local concern.
Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing on Marist campus housing?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Been moved and seconded, we open the public hearing on Marist College North Campus housing. I'll call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing on Marist College parking improvements?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded, we open the public hearing on Marist College parking improvements, St. Anne's. I call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. Is there anybody that wishes to comment on either of the Marist projects?
Make a motion to, are we closing?
Yeah, we're closing both.
Okay, closing both public hearings on the Marist campus housing and the parking lot improvements.
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we close the public hearings on Marist College North Campus housing and on the parking improvements, St. Anne's. I call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 5-0. I'll go around I'll go around the board. Ed?
I guess it's me. I wondered if you had consulted the Farmer's Almanac regarding spring weather. At any rate, I hope it's positive. Thank you. By all means.
We'll take all of that we
My
can get.
congratulations, you guys have done an awful lot of work in a short period of time. I realize the SWIP thing has still got some things to be I's dotted and T's crossed and so forth. But overall, I think you guys have made a great effort to make this come to fruition at this point in time. And it looks like, as usual with Marist, a great project, and I hope for great success here. And I do hope your timing works out, because it is tough.
Tight
Justin, I can see that you'll be having many sleepless nights.
No doubt. Thank you.
Ben, do you have any comments?
No, not at this time.
Carl?
I do have a couple. I was trying to remember if we discussed archaeology at St. Anne's, because I knew that was a sensitive area. Was there anything that's shown up with that? Was there any
Got a letter from the state.
John?
OPRHP actually saw fit to issue a no-impact letter for both St. Anne's. And if you recall, when we did North Campus housing,
Right, you have
the actual archaeological site actually resides in this corner
Yeah.
of North Campus housing. They also, in their separate letter for North Campus housing, said they were satisfied with that. I believe, and I don't know if Neil was able to locate it, that you have the final archaeological report with the recoveries for that. But again, there's no further impact that they foresaw here in either category. The only question they had was, there was an old 1950s vintage house, the Riley House, that used to exist on North Campus housing. That was demolished by Marist when they acquired it, and that was kind of like the genesis for the parking project. But I don't think OPRHP really kind of understood that, so their letter was a little vague, but they didn't raise any concerns, sir.
All right, thanks. Yeah, I remember that dig in that corner. That's why I was wondering if there was something else there. Other issue I had, I might have mentioned before, but the stairs up to St. Anne's parking, you might consider a ramp to go up the stairs along with it, so somebody could roll their bike up as they walk up the stairs, as is common in a lot of places in Europe and elsewhere. And I didn't see bike racks on the plan, but I assume you will have some for all these dorms. One piece I saw missing was the sidewalk. I assume some of these students are going to want to go over to Home Depot, but it seems like I don't see a segment of sidewalk that connects from the north entrance crosswalks along the south, the north entrance, on the south side of the north entrance, for example. Unless I missed it.
We've wrestled long and hard. I think this board, and when we did North Campus housing, because Gartland Commons, what the current sidewalk, if you wanted to get to that intersection, actually runs along this side of Fontaine Hall, winds up, meanders through the stone wall just north of the entrance, and pops out, if you remember where the fence is along this section of the Marist College campus, just at the north end of the fence, that's where the sidewalk goes. What we did not want to do is introduce pedestrians into this corridor where the main driveway is. So what we've done is we've kind of facilitated the pedestrians. We gave them a couple crossing points, but we believe that the students will probably use the same way they use today. We just didn't feel that introducing the pedestrians along the main entry road was in the best interest of our students. The other thing is, to be quite honest with you, we know students are going to cross. It is not our intent to encourage it, because
it's not a common thing. They're mostly going to be going to classes and whatnot, but if
so
someone
we
wants
figured it
something
was
to-
along the route. That's kind of why we did it that way, sir.
Crap,
There you go, Joe.
my gosh. That's why it's not good to be late.
Okay, I see that sidewalk now that you're mentioning on the map.
Yeah, it's kind of hidden in
A little further south, but it's there.
It gets them there.
And last but not least, I was at the waterfront the other day, and it made me think of the Greenway Trail. And so wondered if you've looked into, since this is all being redone, some method to get from the Longview Park, just under the tunnel by the water plant, Greenway Trail up through St. Anne's Trails perhaps, and some future connection from St. Anne's to Quiet Cove Park, which is adjacent to that. There's I could see a possibility of running along the fence by the water plant, around the water plant, for example, and then up the ball fields to get to St. Anne's if you want to avoid the campus, or go and have them walk up around
We've kind of looked at a
Hancock
variety of
and-
ways.
and right down the main spine there.
There is no Marist College land between the railroad right-of-way and the water plant land, so we need to walk on their property. And what we've kind of tried to do is encourage the student population and pedestrians to utilize the internal Marist sidewalks. A lot of
Right.
people do. And so what we've done is basically enhance the sidewalk, kind of made our network a little better going north, and added the feature up to St. Anne's.
And the stairs up through St. Anne's.
You have to keep in mind, and I was hoping in one of the drawings in one of the photographs that we submitted as part of this, that the St. Anne's property itself is quite large, and the portion that we're developing is about one quarter to 1/5 of the entire property. The balance of it is kind of to the north, in between us and the park, and there is a series of trails and other things, but they're mostly for Marist students and.
That's why I didn't know how much of St. Anne's would be public accessible, or.
All of St.
some
Anne's
other
is
way to-
publicly accessible, as
Okay.
the rest of the campus. And just one
Right.
comment about the water plant. It's my understanding with my conversations with their administrator that they really don't want too much public traffic right by their settling tanks. So that's why I think the better idea is to use the Marist network of sidewalks to get north.
Okay, and the
north
sidewalks
south.
are all in existence today?
Yeah, they're
to
all
get
there.
From that tunnel up around Hancock.
Right, and then when you get to St. Anne's, there are some woodland trails that get you close to Quiet Cove, but there's a gap between Quiet Cove and.
Yeah, that's what I'm
St.
saying, getting a little further up,
Getting really close.
and then there's just an easy trail to bridge that. Okay, that would be great.
Well, we could send a letter to the county planning and suggest that because it's a county park.
Help work on getting a connection. Sounds good. All right, that's all I have. Thanks.
Peter?
I just have one comment. And that is, if I were to teach a course on presentation of a technical paper, I would use this SWIP as an example of how to reach lay people who sit on boards. You've done a masterful job. It's great. I just want to compliment you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
You
Joe,
guys
you
are
wanna
gonna
make a
walk away with big heads tonight.
Do I hear a motion on the seeker? So,
Which one is it? All right.
top one.
You got it, Ed? Or-
Yeah, I got it. I move that the planning board as lead agency hereby determines that Marist North Campus housing and the St. Andrews parking project would not have a significant adverse effect on the environment and that no environmental impact statement will be required for reasons set forth in a secret negative declaration. Both projects as a combined type 1 action dated January 15th, 2015.
Second.
There you go. It's been moved and seconded that the planning board as lead agency hereby determines that the Marist North Campus housing and St. Anne's parking projects would not have a significant adverse effect on the environment and that no impact statement will be required for the reasons set forth in the secret negative declaration for both projects as a combined type 1 action dated January 15th, 2015. Any further discussion? I call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? You vote on this one, Joe? It's up to you. You can.
You can abstain.
Okay. Did you abstain?
Yep.
Okay. It's five with one abstention, 5 in favor and with one abstention. I call, motion passes.
Very good.
Not used to that. I got tongue-tied. The next motion is,
I got it.
okay.
Is there going to be any more discussion on your part over site plan wise, otherwise parking? We're all set. Any other questions before I make a motion?
I'll ask for discussion after the
All
motion.
right, fine. I move that the planning board grant conditional approval of the Marist College North Campus housing site plan application and waterfront consistency review, subject to acceptance of applicant response by the planning department as in adequate and completeness in regards to the comments of the planning board, those received from town departments, planning board consultants, and other agencies, including 1 through 12. Did we get Fairview Fire District comments? We did not.
It's in the,
I know, but I didn't see any
I think we've had Fairview Fire District comments on
back
that.
some time ago. Gee.
There were some comments sometime early last year.
Yeah. Okay. I moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we grant conditional site plan and water consistency review approvals as follows. For the Marist North Campus Housing Site Plan Application and Waterfront Consistency, subject to acceptance of the applicant's responses by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness in regard to the comments of the planning board and those received from the town departments, planning board consultants, and other agencies, including but not limited to 1 through 12, and also conduct an architectural review. Further discussion on the site plan? Joe,
I'm going to myself.
are you fine? Ed?
I'm good.
Carl? Ben? Peter? I call the question. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right.
Motion passes 5-0. Now we gotta do the next one. That's on this other,
Did we just do architectural as well?
not
That's
yet.
my question. If you
I
kind
don't know that you wanted to include that
of, architectural is
separate, right?
supposed to be separate.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was one of the conditions. not-
That's right, okay.
Richard.
You got it?
I got it.
There's the motion.
So, presentation first.
Do you want to do the architectural review on the
I thought
housing
we were
before
gonna do
St.
the site
Anne's?
plan motion first, and then I'll go
Okay.
back and do the architectural.
Okay, St. Anne's parking,
Right there.
I got it. I think I got it.
Right there.
Okay, I move that the planning board certify that the proposed activity is consistent with the town local water. Is that what we want, or do we
Yeah.
want, is that the one we want first? Okay.
It's the same thing.
They're both in the
Okay.
same motion.
Town's local waterfront revitalization program and grant conditional approval of St. Anne's parking site plan application subject to the acceptance of applicant's response by the planning department as to adequacy, completeness in regards to the comments of the planning board and those received from the town departments, planning board consultants, and other agencies, including but not limited to 1 through 10.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded that the planning board certify that the proposed activity is consistent with the town's local waterfront revitalization program and grant conditional approval of St. Anne's parking site plan application subject to the acceptance of the applicant's responses by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness in regard to the comments of the planning board and those received from town departments, planning board consultants, and other agencies, including but not limited to 1 through 10. Further discussion?
Yeah, I just had one question. The St. Anne's parking lot while construction's going on, who would park up there? Would it be strictly construction? Would it be possibly?
Students,
Students?
yeah.
Not staff?
not staff, well, staff that would be working in St. Anne's perhaps, but for the
Okay.
most part, just students.
You're gonna have good safety boundaries then, I assume?
Yeah,
Yes.
on the western edge with well-lighted paths.
Okay, good.
I call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you.
Go forth and make progress.
What do you wanna hear about?
Oh, yeah, we want to hear the architect. I'm sorry.
I'm just trying to keep you on your toes.
Keeping me in track. Good.
This is a tough job. Somebody's got to.
That's included in the.
Good evening. For the record, I am Kevin Smith, partner with Robert Stern Architects in New York City. Very happy to be here to continue our work on the Marist campus. John eloquently described some of the reasons that the North Campus housing is proposed, but it's also part of a larger enhancement of the Marist campus, make it fit better with the town of Poughkeepsie and also with its Hudson Valley and Hudson River environment. So I just wanted to quickly describe a little bit of the site plan. What's not clear, this one has color, so maybe you can see it from over there, but what the intentions were. And one major intention, just at the outset, it really is, it's focused on both on the river and on the Marist campus. So it really doesn't open itself up to Route 9. It's designed to contain student activities and not have them be deleterious to anyone outside. And that it is really designed to maximize these wonderful river views. So one of them being, which I'll show you in a moment, as you come in the north gate, there's a framed view between these two buildings. So you look across the river and see the hills on the other side. And then the other buildings create a green space that the students can enjoy. All of that opens off to the west, and with a view of the river. There's also a series of pedestrian paths. The most important one is a continuation of sidewalks on either side of the campus drive, and that all the entrances come off of that. So they're not on Route 9, obviously. And there's also a pathway on the high point, which can in the future potentially be connected to paths through St. Anne's. So there's a way for kids to get around and provide a more beautiful environment. There's 4 buildings, 796 beds. They're all 4 stories, with the exception of a wing here of Building A. And just to show you what all of this looks like, this is a view being on Route 9, looking in. Here's that spot I mentioned where the 2 buildings open and form a kind of portal to a view. You see the river beyond. There is the taller element, that's the 5-story piece, but that creates kind of marker. And you see here the gates that we had designed and built a couple of years ago. It's really all part of a marker as an entry to Marist College. The palette of materials, and I'll show you the elevations in a moment, but it's very much like the buildings we've done recently at Hancock and the music extension to the Student Center. The Marist blend stone. So this is, just went out here. It's exactly from the same quarry and the same mix of stones that we've used on gates, on Hancock, on the pedestrian underpass, on the Student Center. And then it has a certain amount of trim with a Glengarry brick, which is very much the language of some of the older buildings on the campus, and one that we've extended. And then windows, which is also now a standard color. And around the windows, there is a limestone trim, which you can see, which is a little bit different than the other buildings. The roofs are a shingle. It's really an asphalt, but it's a very thick asphalt that from a distance is virtually indistinguishable from slate. So that's the palette of materials, just in terms of a more detailed drawing. This require.
I sure hope that quarry doesn't run out of stone.
Oh, that's a huge quarry. They won't want to.
We've been on field trips to make sure that that is not the case.
Vermont?
No, it's Lake Champlain, New York.
Right, it's just on the line.
It's a cold, mountainous,
It's very cold.
it's very cold.
Been there.
So here are two representative elevations. This is the elevation of the facade that's next to the North Entry Road. It is a collegiate Gothic building. It's meant to continue the language of some of the other buildings we've done at Marist. So this one is 5 stories on that piece. All the other ones are that one wing is 5 stories. The rest of them are 4 stories. This is actually one of the 2 facing buildings that form that gateway. So 4 stories, roof, occasional gables and chimneys that we use for getting toilet exhausts and other useful things. They don't have fireplaces. But that's really, we're very, very pleased to see this at a level of student housing that I think will be a embellishment to both the Marist campus and to the community.
No green roof this time, huh?
No green roofs
There's no
this time.
flat- no flat areas.
There really are no flat roofs.
You got enough to do, right?
I'll tell you, they're gorgeous. I mean, it's, I think this campus is gonna be the envy of many.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
I'm just concerned of how much tuition's gonna go up now.
The idea is to keep it as low as it is now.
As low as you can.
That's the plan. We want to be the low-cost, high-value enterprise, and that's really where we've been.
Yeah,
Many
Craig
of our
has
competitors
an
are.
interest in that comment.
Looks good.
What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to accept architectural renderings.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that we accept the architectural review as presented. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
No? Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank Jeff and your consultants for the record.
You want that picture?
They made my life a lot easier than it could have. And
Eric would like to have that picture.
Carol, did we get the color renderings, or
Students ain't gonna have a
do we need those? Have those been submitted?
we submitted renderings early on.
Color renderings?
Yeah, across Route 9 there.
Oh, okay, 11 by 17?
Yeah.
Yeah, they were small. I can make sure that you get them. We'll get you
Okay.
updated renderings.
Okay.
And Rich, just for the record, I think,
Good, I think that
clarify Joe's vote.
a few sessions with
I
him,
said
he's
6-0.
feeling better, so he's back in.
Yale never looked so good.
Right,
That was 5 until now. I got Joe's right. He's the 6th person.
okay,
I heard him say yes.
okay.
Okay, next item on the agenda. Where is there it is. It's that time.
Can I borrow?
The thing about suspending the rules. Oh, here it is.
Right.
The original.
Oh, she's here.
Can we stay?
This time I will ask for a motion to suspend the rules to allow comments on any other items on tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. We suspend the rules to allow comments on other items on tonight's agenda. Call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Anybody here that would like to comment on anything else on the agenda? I move we resume the rules.
Second.
I moved and seconded that we resume the rules. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Okay, C1. Well, we're gonna skip C1 for now and, until the applicant gets here. C2, Arlington Farms, Malabar Realty LLC, seeker and site plan review for proposed demolition of an existing structure on the site and the construction of a one-story gas station convenience store, 4,500 square feet with a gas canopy and 6 gas pumps, 798 Dutchess Turnpike, Zone BH Business Highway, 0.81 acres. Unlisted action, Malabar Realty LLC owner. Who's that?
You can pass them.
Anybody want a cough drop?
We can pass them down.
That's dinner, by the way.
Yeah, that's dinner.
Pointers.
Okay, we're.
See if I can get those for you.
Anybody care for a cough drop? Great.
These are.
You taking this stuff home?
No.
Ah. Who would care to introduce yourselves and make any presentation?
Good evening. I'm Rich Tompkins from Maury Architects.
Lajan, Malabar Realty.
Again, the project, as we discussed last month, is to demolish the existing structures on site. There is an apartment building, a one-story service station building, and a mobile used car building. We'll demolish all of the structures on site and construct the 4,500 square foot convenience gas station, service station building with all of the other site upgrades.
Art, do you have any?
Yeah. Staff, let's see, you have in your packets, there were comments from the New York State DOT, which were just received today. Carl, did the applicant get that in their packet as well? Great.
Yeah.
Great. Staff reviewed it, and there's still a number of issues outstanding on the plans. It's kind of the planning board's discretion as to whether some of the site access issues rise to the level of seeker significance or not. If the DOT is pretty much in charge of the access from the Route 44 side, they had a number of questions which appear from today's letter to be still outstanding. The town highway superintendent was also seeking a restriction on left turns from Over Rocker Road onto Route 44 westbound, probably, time restricted, not full time. But between that and the truck circulation, some questions about the status of the DEC closure, the landscaping and screening requirements as they relate to zoning and guidelines. We thought that at a minimum, we should get more of that information in front of the board before proceeding with any conditional approval. The board may also feel that it's not yet ready for a seeker resolution, although we have provided one if you determine that it is ready for that. So those are our comments. Those are our comments.
Don, do you have any?
For the first time in a long time, we don't have a full SWIP on this plan, so we're just looking for some additional erosion sediment control details. There's some drainage details to be worked out. Eric mentioned the semi-trailer movements on the site not working real well. Those are the highlights.
Can I just comment on a couple of those items?
Let me get through
Okay.
that. Do we have any stuff on this? Is Richard?
No, we hadn't received any traffic report, so it didn't go to the traffic consultant for review. Mostly the traffic's in the hands of the DOT. We don't have any, there was no information provided, so there was nothing to review.
Yeah, if you want to comment now?
Well, I just wanted the point on the DEC. We are working with DOT. There is a tank that is under their property that we're still working on trying to remove one of the tanks. So we are in the process of working on that. I have the paperwork from DOT that gives us permission to now remove that tank that's under their property. So that was part of the holdup with some of that. So we're going to continue to work on that.
You want a copy of this?
Sure.
The issue with the traffic, we provided basically two scenarios with a tractor trailer coming in off of Route 44 and entering the site, and we would have to modify some of the curbing to allow that. And we basically showed that truck exiting out onto Overrocker, which again, we would have to modify some of the curbing, and we feel that we could keep it on the road. It does slightly go off onto the neighboring property across the street on Overrocker. So if we modify some of our entrances, we think that we can get that to work. The third, sheet 3 of 4 of that traffic study was really just to show that we're not going to be able to make that turn back out. It wasn't, it was really just to show that, you know, it was tried and doesn't work. And then the fourth scheme is really what we feel is probably going to be the most, or the easiest solution to this is having a truck come in on Overrocker Road, enter the site, and then leave out onto Route 44. And again, we do have to modify the curbs slightly for that. We did just get the comments the other day, so we haven't had a chance to run the fire truck, and I believe a garbage truck was requested, so we haven't had a chance to do that, but we will update that. There were a couple of additional items on the DOT comment letter that again we just saw for the first time. And some of these items actually were talked about with the DOT engineer and our engineer, Casey Engineering. And we thought verbally they were worked out, and then they showed up on the letter today. So we'll have to work those out with him a little closer.
I think a lot of the comments will work themselves out.
Sure,
and I'm happy to sit down with you to do a quick turnaround.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want, just given that the site access is central to the layout of the entire site, and DOT is really in the driver's seat on that.
Yeah.
Until we know that DOT is going to be okay with that access, we don't really know that the site layout is going to work.
Yeah, absolutely understood.
So all the rest of it, I think, is just a matter of getting the details onto the plans.
Okay.
So if you give me a call, I'm happy to sit down with you.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I'll take comments from the board. Ben? Want to go first?
Nothing now.
Okay. Carl?
Do have a few to bring up. I did see, like, on the signage, one of your elevations, that the architecture's starting to look good there. It said cafe on it, so I assume you're having maybe some food sales, sit down.
Sure.
So that means I didn't notice if there's a grease trap or not in the plans for that.
Sure, we have two grease trap, one inside as well as an outside too.
Okay, great. Sidewalk connections. There's missing little segments, I'd say, right about there, when the crosswalk getting to that sidewalk.
Sure.
And you may also want to connect that sidewalk to that sidewalk. I did want to ask in general about that area where you say, outdoor sitting or eating. Looks like it's going to be a grass area over the leach field, basically.
Yes.
Yes,
So I was wondering
outside.
how that was maintained, or what kind of seating you were talking about, picnic tables or some kind of thing out there, or
It
just,
probably will be.
Summertime,
Yeah,
just
it's-
for people to
or just
sit
a grass, or
and
just a
relax.
grass area?
Yeah.
Just back to that sidewalk, we were originally intending on this circulation, we have it going to the dumpster and then the.
I think you do, for the record, we have to have your comments on the
sorry.
mic. If you could just turn it on and take it with you.
I see a segment to get to the dumpster there, but,
Yeah, the segment in front of the dumpster, again, we were trying to avoid additional pervious coverage because we're already over, so we were trying to limit that by allowing them to just walk on the pavement to the sidewalk.
well, okay, I mean, I also think you can get rid of a bunch of concrete up in the corner here, because I think, like you did over here, I think that's the intent of the code as well, is to have a buffer between the street and the sidewalk. So if you move that sidewalk in several feet or even cut it across there.
With DOT's comments today, I don't think you can see it from there, but I did sketch the sidewalk would be
More
rerouted
inland.
here, but unfortunately, all of this is not our property, so it doesn't count toward our
your
green
impervious.
space. So by adding it in here, that's where it actually hurts
But
us.
still that is grass.
Because
Grassy.
our property line
Right,
is
runs
actually,
along there, yes.
it's actually inside the paved area, so all of this is actually DOT property.
Yeah, I see it on the line, on the map
Yeah.
there. But okay, but at least you can cut back that sidewalk, and that'll be better when they plow the street in the snow and
Yes,
and
yeah.
whatever, and
Yep.
be better for walking. Let's see. The only other, I was wondering about the entrance. There was a comment in I think it was either DOT or county, talked about closing this entrance perhaps, since it's so close to the road there, and you have the other entrance both in and out over here.
That, I believe, was on one of the DOT's initial comment letters.
So is that a consideration still, or?
Well, we did, the way that I think they left it on their letters, they said that they didn't have any control over the town road. And when we spoke to the town highway department, he was okay with an in only, but he did bring up the comment about the no left turn at the end of Overrocker.
Initially, there
Or
was
maybe
in
no
and
left-
out.
Or maybe no left turn, I mean, this one's only in on that,
I'm talking about-
close to the edge.
Yeah,
but
The
it's
first one is only in.
Just wondering the need for that versus, because you have the in a little further down on Overrocker as well, just trying to minimize curb cuts.
Well, part of what we were trying to do is, again, anybody coming in on Overrocker, to be able to get them into the site without, circling all around the site. And again, the town highway seemed to be okay with it when we had our initial conversations with him. The big thing that he was concerned is the no left turn actually at the end of Overrocker Road.
I spoke with Chuck Walter the other day at DOT, and I asked him about the source of that comment, because you're right, it's not part of the DOT right-of-way. And the reason that, he told me that the reason he'd made the comment was because of the configuration of left-turning vehicles for Route 44, and the way they would get access to that one-way in. I didn't fully understand it, but it might be helpful for the next round to show the lanes from Route 44, from that left turn lane and the Overrocker lane, so that he can make that evaluation. I didn't quite understand what his concern was, but he was saying something about the configuration of that pathway. And the fact that it might be used inappropriately, and there seemed to be some kind of traffic conflict he was concerned about, but on the phone, it wasn't apparent to me exactly what he meant.
Well, I think.
So you may want to, do that diagram and then follow up with him.
I think one of the comments that he made to our engineer was he was concerned, I believe, with people making a left in the out only on 44.
Recommend it to them.
Because of the angle that it is, that they would, if they don't see cars coming, they'll make the quick dodge in there, but I guess that could happen anywhere, and that was the conversation, again, I'm hearing it third party because it was between my engineer and him, but they had kind of discussed it, and I think that it was just left as, anything can happen anywhere, but we'll follow up with that.
Yeah, I have a question. I mean, is there no left turn there now?
No.
Not onto Overrock.
It's a stop sign.
It's presently unrestricted as far as I know.
Yeah, well, and we can't,
It's a town highway, so according to the DOT, it's town jurisdiction.
well, I mean, but the planning board can't make that, right? Would have to go to the town board to authorize the,
Correct. It's the request of the highway superintendent
Yeah.
that the restriction be applied.
I guess the question that I have is that, should that really be put on our application, or should that just be a sign that's put up by the town highway?
Oh, the
Not
town-
necessarily because of our project, but because of the nature of trying to make a left turn out of Overrocker onto Route 44.
We should follow, why don't we'll have a conversation with the highway superintendent and see if we can work out what the right sequence should be.
Yeah, because he will,
And I think that if there's a no left turn sign, it should have just hours listed on it, no left turn, say, 3 to 6 or whatever the
and
the rush
the
hour
highway
is that-
superintendent was open to putting a time restriction on it. So it was a few
That's
hours in
the
the
letter
morning
that
and a
I
few
got.
hours in the
Right,
evening.
okay, that,
He was
The
open to that.
highway
I think I'd rather see that.
No left turn on 44.
It was a no left turn onto 44.
From Overrocker onto 44.
But that's where, again, we thought that it,
Too clear, I thought he was talking about the exit.
that's why we thought that is something that maybe, he could handle as a town road, is not part of,
Turn here.
Well, it sounds like
application.
get together with Eric and figure that out then.
yeah, we'll have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got two ways.
Certainly,
yeah, obviously gotta decide what he really meant.
who's on first?
Right.
There is something I'd like to ask.
Sure.
In regard to those two new tanks, the 15,000 gallon fiberglass tanks,
Yeah.
what type of monitoring are you gonna have for those tanks for leakage?
We'll be having the latest Gilbergo sensors with the monitoring Weeder route.
Gilbarco?
Yeah.
They make
that-
monitoring systems or pumps?
No, it's pumps as well as they make Weeder route
Oh, okay.
350R.
Okay.
It's automatically reconciliation every day in the 5 a.m. So
Okay. Are they dry interstitial space or between the inner and outer tank or wet?
say it again,
The
please.
space between the inner and outer tank, is it dry or wet? Is there
It's
liquid in
dry.
there?
It's dry. Double wall fiberglass.
Double wall.
Yeah.
I had one more comment, if you're done then.
Yeah.
I see that there's a propane exchange listed there. Is that, just I know we've had some issues with that in the town in some places. Is that a valid spot according to code and everything? Okay.
That building department will have to, it's one of the comments is to check with the building department on that.
All right.
Peter?
Are you on the zoning board agenda?
We missed the last application, so we're making application this week to be on the next meeting.
Okay, so in February.
It would be February meeting.
Do you have, or I know it's hard to establish a timetable with the DEC with regard to the remediation. What is do you have a sense for?
Do you know, now that you got this from the DOT, do you know when the remediation with the DEC is going to be complete?
Actually, we got the permit for removing the tank. Unfortunately, there is a tank under the property line of DOT as well as ours. So we need the permission from that. I got that just today. So our contractor will be working on it as soon as possible.
And the soil on the site?
The soil, almost the soil we removed, and each 500 tons, we need a sample to be sent out to that. So the 2 sample we send it out is already done. So we need to send out another sample to remove the rest soil we have on the ground. So it's approximately 550 ton. That's what the contractor estimates.
That's the remaining amount, you,
Yeah.
550?
Another 550 ton more.
I don't know if any of this stuff.
It's a lot of money.
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Joe?
Yes, I'm just a little confused about the traffic analysis that you have here. And I see the truck come in from left to right and right to left. Can you explain a little bit? And my other comment is in suggestion for you, that you would limit the delivery of the fuel maybe early morning, because with the traffic right now on 44, it's gonna be a mess. And the way you have the truck lined up here, hopefully the driver doesn't drive like this, so, with the way this, it's been put, so, it's like a question and a comment and suggestion for you.
Yeah, page 1 of 4, the engineer tried to do 2 different scenarios. So basically, page 1, 2, and 3 of 4 would be the delivery truck entering the site from Route 44. And page 2 of 4 shows that truck exiting out onto Overrocker.
I guess you forgot to put Route 44 on the map here, so.
Yeah, it's backwards and upside down from what we have here. And then page 3 just shows that we cannot make the left turn back onto Overrocker. And I think what was asked was just put the maximum size truck, so he put a 67-foot, and that's probably not going to be the actual truck that delivers the gas, so this was worst case. And page 4 of 4 actually shows the delivery truck coming or entering the site from Overrocker Road and then exiting back out onto Route.
Right, I just visualized that day when he brings the fuel to refill, it seems to be too much, and if it's a large truck, you're gonna have some kind of issue with the customers, or, I'm just like.
Yeah, we would have to work on the hours
Yeah.
when they're delivered. That would have to be part of this. And we're gonna, what I can do, we were basically asked to put the maximum size truck, so we can actually reduce this and put what we feel is gonna be the actual truck that's gonna deliver the fuel.
This shows like a 13,000 gallons truck. Generally, New York State's only allow us to bring 8,500 in a, so it's like a 5,500 gallons more we are showing here.
Yeah.
So this is the largest in the country we can have right now.
Okay. Good.
So
Thank you.
we will reduce
Yeah.
that.
I would suggest a site plan note, Eric, regarding times of delivery, off hours. Okay. To me, I think you've got a lot of work to do yet, given the New York State DOT comments. And there is 2 letters from Sarah Davis regarding various zoning issues, as well as see if it indicates that the site contains threatened or endangered species. A lot of stuff needs to be tied up. That's her December 10th letter. And then she's got another one the 8th, so there's a lot of stuff there that still needs to be cleared up and clarified.
Yeah, some of those issues we did clarify with our resubmittal. Obviously, we just got this from January 8th. Some of these will be cleared up when we visit them. The one issue that we really have is just the windowless facade. Because of the nature of this building, we do need blank wall space on the interior of the building for shelving and coolers and kitchen equipment. And because we are on a triangular shaped site with roads on 3 sides, makes it difficult to put windows on every side of the building and still have it function for the interior of the building.
I hear you.
So
I think the plan is going to be a lot better than what it looks today.
Sure.
But anyway, you got to clean it all up.
Sure, yeah.
Go from there.
Do I hear a motion from the board?
Okay, I move that the planning board determine that the application is incomplete for seeker.
Here a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the planning board determine that the application is incomplete for seeker. Call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? And the second one is?
This one.
No.
I move that the planning board defer further action on the site plan application subject to the following response to the following 1 through 10, and I'll include zoning administrator's letter of December 9th? December 10th of 2014.
Comments from the board.
And the comments from the board.
And the comments from the board.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded that the planning board defer further action on the site plan application subject to the following 1 through 10, and the zoning administrator's comments dated December 10th,
2014.
and the comments from the board tonight. Do I hear, call the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. So we'll see you again soon.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question. You're looking at your architecture there. What type of roofing material are you thinking of?
That's a
Roof metal?
It's a standing seam metal roof.
A metal roof?
It is.
You're looking for green roof?
No, green roof is not as.
Somebody here for?
But
I think so.
I was gonna go ahead with Fairview.
right, any particular color of it? Or what color is the roof intended to
Should be green, I believe.
Well, we're working, well,
Working
we're
through it.
hopefully
Yeah,
have the colors
architecture
for you
another
next,
time, but
next week,
Trying
our
to give you a
next
little
meeting.
feedback now. And most of the roofs in the area are the architectural shingle type thing, but you'll have to look at it, what you present.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, no, we'll do this at the end. Is there anybody here for Herman's? Okay, we'll do that next then, and then move on to Fairview.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is Herman's Nursery Site, discussion of property use, 1252 to 1266 Dutchess Turnpike, zoned RRH, Rochdale Road Hamlet, 0.5 acres, VE Investors LLC owner.
Correct. Actually, it's VE and RE Investors. My name is Robert Levine of Levine PC in Poughkeepsie. I represent the developers. The property was purchased by VE and RE Investors prior to 2008 from Bill Herman. VE and RE really stands for Robin and Vito Errico. Robin and Vito are Westchester residents. Vito Errico is a developer who started a concept called Equinox Health Clubs, which is probably the premier health clubs in the country. He sold it many years ago, and he and Robin have developed throughout the country projects that have always been, from what I have seen, very sensitive to the community and the environment. And I think that we're very fortunate in this area that they have decided to do a few projects. Since 2008, of course, the economy has precluded any development of the project, and there was some dispute over ownership. But that has been resolved, and Vito and Robin have decided to move forward. We've had a number of meetings with the supervisor and Mr. Wilson and the planning staff. I might add, I am also on the City of Poughkeepsie Planning Board, and to say staff is really a pleasure, since we have, as you know, a part-time, oh, there's Mr. Wilson, only one part-time planner for the entire City of Poughkeepsie. So I know that you appreciate how lucky you are to have a staff, and a very incredible and competent staff. In any event, we have talked about different concepts, and as I mentioned, we have met with Mr. Wilson and his staff and the supervisor to talk about what would be best suited for this property. Actually, Bill Herman has lived there for many years until he was really unable to live on his own, and Vito and Robin allowed that to go on. But I think we're at the stage now where a development of the parcel is important for them, obviously, and for the town. And I will defer to Don, who I've just met today. I've been working with Mr. McCormick, and as all of you know, Michael is generally never late, so but he did call me and he apologized. And Don, I don't want to butcher your name, so I will have you introduce yourself.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Donald Petrancola. I'm an architect with Liska McCormick Van Voris Architects here in city of Poughkeepsie. What we have this evening is a concept plan for an idea for the development of the parcel. Immediately off of Route 44, we're looking at the development of a farmer's market area that is bounded by new stone walls, parking, and 15 retail spaces, single-story and a two-story office facility in the corner of the property. We've got an area of tree grove to the left, and the parking area closest to the turnpike is indicated as potential future retail space development, and closer than that is overflow parking area for the farmer's market location. We have adequate parking spaces as well as handicapped planned. Towards the back of the property is where we do begin to impact some topography. Otherwise, the site is fairly level. We would probably looking to potentially add some additional parking in the back of the facility for employees. But this is kind of our first pass for development of the site.
This is a discussion, so have at it.
Where's Arnoff? Is there Arnoff back there on the side?
To the left.
To the left?
To the left, yes.
How many acres is it?
It's 9.5.
9.5.
Was residential ever considered?
No, I don't believe so.
I mean, it was intended for the hamlet.
Yeah.
I guess I'd like to read a couple of things from the zoning for this district, because, you know, the master plan and the intent of this parcel was to help some commercial retail as well as possibly apartments to blend in with the surrounding residential there. And it's basically defines it as an emerging mixed-use center, promote pedestrian activity connections to the existing residential neighborhoods, minimize visual impact with keeping parking behind in landscaping, and you're not doing any drive-throughs proposed at the moment, which is also discouraged. Multifamily dwellings are part of it, as well as I said, mixed use, and could be up to 3 stories. Small retail, you've done that already, so you could have up to 4 dwellings per acre, so you could go up to 38 apartments, something like that. It just seems like the plan you're showing is underdeveloped for this purpose of this site, as well as the layout. Shared parking, let's see, wherever practical. You got the trees there. I don't see any architecture yet, but I mean, we'll get into that at a much later time. So basically, I would suggest trying to keep the buildings more upfront, you know, toward the road and parking behind. I don't know if you need quite that. Can you explain more about the farmer's market intent? It seems like a very awful big site for a farmer's market.
Well,
You could kind of-
it's really not, because quite frankly, you will probably have some overflow parking. Hopefully, it would be successful. It certainly is the trend. I know that although the Vassar area, the Raymond Avenue, has not been as successful in recent years, I think that this location probably would be more conducive to that. And you're right, that it probably is underutilized, but the economy doesn't permit it to be overutilized.
Do you think you have to deal with septic, or are you looking at the sewer access at some way?
I will defer to the planners.
Yeah, Carl, I think we're going to have to assume at the outset it'll be on-site septic. There are issues trying to get across the street to the sewer plant at Stratford Farm.
It'd be a force main, I'm sure, but I just wonder if it'd be, what does that restrict the site to having septic, as far as if they want to add some apartments or whatever?
It would affect the number of apartments, and obviously because of the number of apartments and, whatever the flow rates from that, plus the retail, which, is probably substantially less than that, is going to drive the size of that.
I would say, as a Rooksdale resident, I don't think it's underutilized myself. Also, the thing that is the problem with apartments here is that we've got Stratford Farms up the road who've been extremely unsuccessful at selling, even their
Those were for sale.
alone house site.
Oh, they have apartments there too? I thought it was just town.
Well, they haven't built
Well,
it
the
because
town- the
they haven't been able to
Yeah, they're,
rent it.
Right, which is,
So, I mean,
Actually,
in fact, we approved it several years ago.
well, it's on for an extension as
Yeah.
well, so.
So,
I
it's not
just always see that, there's not enough apartments in this area.
well, there's apartments across the street from here,
Yes, that
Oakwood
is.
or whatever it is.
That was another thing I was going to mention, that the road alignment currently entrance into the site about in this area here is directly across from the entrance to the apartment complex over there. So I just thought it may be good to keep,
Well, actually, I
they're
think,
keeping that entrance right across from there in case in the future, the 10 years down the road, the traffic may be busier, and I
well,
like
the
it.
traffic on,
Like
Route-
it's put in.
the traffic on Route 44 is extremely busy now. I mean,
Right, so,
pretty much all day long. I mean, it used to be rush hour in the morning and rush hour in the evening, but I mean, you can get there in the middle of the afternoon and sit at Mary Avenue and Rochdale Road and wait 10 minutes to get on to,
that's why I think,
but I
at some
think,
point in the
I think it's
future,
gonna.
they may want a light there, so
Well, that's,
having
I think,
this offset would not
I think
be
that's what's gonna
conducive.
happen is that, sooner or later DOT is gonna come along and say, but, they're reluctant to put in lights. So,
I know, but
and,
just keeping them aligned, it just allows you for the future.
thing I like about it is the fact that your entrances on Rochdale Road is really by Arnoff
Yes.
and doesn't, it doesn't lead people to go down Rochdale Road where all the housing and residential is.
Yeah, you had that side entrance is great to have as well as.
But I mean,
just
but
one
you
in
want
and
it
out.
somewhere, I mean, the neighborhood would be extremely upset if they'd start putting a lot of traffic on Rochdale Road, which is not in great shape most of the time anyway.
No, it's,
And we've had that discussion with Mark.
I'm sure.
But it's also not a road that lends itself to heavy traffic because it's fairly narrow and a
Well,
lot of.
isn't that a dead end also?
No, it comes out, it goes in at Arnoff's and comes out by the restaurant. Tappan.
Okay.
Used to be Tappan.
But I can't imagine that would, anybody using this site would be trying to exit on there, but I think we should at least have, some kind of pedestrian, there's a berm along most of the back of the property and wooded, which is good to keep, I imagine. But there's that back corner here is pretty much comes out flat, and if you could at least have some kind of pedestrian connection to the neighborhood would be beneficial for somebody.
Yeah, that would be great for.
Robert,
I mean, if there's a pizzeria there or
Yes.
something, you might want to.
Robert, the farmer's market, are you anticipating having individual vendors leasing space to them?
No, I think it would be similar to what we have on Raymond Avenue. that people would utilize it. You know, it wouldn't be fixed stands.
Well, each one
Absolutely
of
not.
those pays a permit fee.
Yeah.
And what would be the hours of operation, and would you anticipate that this would be open 7 days a week?
Absolutely not. I think it would be, as most of them are, maybe 1 or 2 days a week.
1 to 2 days a week?
And mostly during the summer, I imagine.
And the vendors would bring
Generally
their
not
own.
in the winter.
The vendors would bring their own truck or trailer with their produce.
Yeah, very similar to the Raymond Avenue Farmers Market.
What is it what do you anticipate would be the maximum number of vendors on that site?
I really don't know. It is, as Mr. Whitehead pointed out, a large area, and I think it's what the market's going to bear. And again, it's really an attempt to be sensitive to the community, to do something. There is not the economic draw to overdevelop it.
It would be helpful, if you plan to proceed with this, it would be helpful for us to make a decision about parking if we knew how many vendors you were going to have on the site. That's why I asked the question.
All right, we will, again, this is the first blush look at it, and I think as time goes on, we'll be able to be more precise, and I will ask Liscombe, McCormick, and Mavoris to consider that.
Great.
You can probably do a little bit of research too, because there's a farmer's market at Pleasant Valley just down the road, and I don't know, how popular that is or how many vendors they get, but you might get an idea of
Absolutely.
yeah.
Is there any consideration of a supermarket of any form?
That was discussed, and when we had meetings with your staff and the supervisor. And unfortunately, because of the size of the facility, the type of supermarket that you could put there would not be what is currently being built. It would not be competitive with the superstores. And I think, we looked at it, we reached out to various companies, and there's really no interest. It would be nice, and it was certainly something that we had considered and we had discussed, but there really is no interest in it.
Yeah, one of the things.
I just think that, and I love fresh food, fresh fruit, and I think it's a great day for a market. I just think that for 2 days a week to have a market here in this nice space, I would like, personally see something different.
Any suggestions?
I mean, if it was 5-6 days a week, don't forget, you get at Arlington, it's every Thursday, and sometimes if it rains, shut down. I'm just thinking that it's a beautiful site. Obviously, it'll be better than what it is now. I just think the market.
Well, I think it's similar to the idea. It's always been, Bill has always had it as a nursery. And it was sort of an attempt to carry that forward. I mean, that's what the site has been for years. Obviously, Bill's business was not able to sustain itself, and they attempted not to make a dramatic impact on the community. And quite frankly, the market's not there.
Yeah. The other thing, you got, Adams, a couple blocks down the road. So, I mean.
You had Lewis Farms, too.
But Lewis Farms didn't make it either, and I think it was both due to that.
It's a sensitive subject since I own Lewis Farm and I've been trying to develop it. So I would really appreciate if we would not comment on Lewis Farm. But if you have any suggestions, maybe if you want to annex Lewis Farm, we would be delighted.
Maybe a grocery store.
And please forgive me, I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just love to see something more fruition on this property, that market, and and God bless for the developers, and all the best. So I'm trying to see if we can make something better than
I know when we were looking at it before, I mean, one of the Hannaford's and some of the others do have a downsized store, but if they're not interested,
They're not interested.
Trade Joe's, no, nothing with those guys.
Would love it.
We'd like a Trader Joe's.
I mean,
How about Costco's?
obviously, if those people were interested and it's been explored,
I'm sure.
there's not the.
Yeah. Again, I just like, to see something that fruition 7 days a week versus only a couple of days a week.
Well, we're not talking about a site that's only a few days a week. We have a number of stores and a few offices, hopefully for professionals. Whether it's medical, legal, whatever, although we have enough legal, but
Enough
medical. So it's trying to utilize it as in the best way it can be, taking the economy, the neighborhood all into consideration.
Robert?
Thank you.
I don't have the zoning ordinance in front of me, but you have about 19,000 square feet of office and retail space, X number of parking spaces. Have you looked at the zoning ordinance to see how that aligns with what you have in mind here?
I will defer to Liska McCormick Van Voorst.
In terms of the retail and office space, and first, the parking need, we feel we've met that. We've provided supplemental spaces for the farmer's market area to the front of the site with additional grass area for that overflow for that temporary time, So on a first look, we have met the need for the constructed building in terms of the parking and the access and the road.
I just think overall that, the layout doesn't meet the intent of the district. I could see that, putting some of the buildings up front here, along the farmer's market, getting the parking or apartments in back if you intend to go any that route.
but we're trying, Carl, to get away from putting buildings right up on the road.
Not right up on the road, but heading along the.
I wonder, though, if...
It looks like you're not even gonna see these. I mean, I don't know what your intent is for the stores themselves, if you have any ideas, or they're fairly small, 1,000 square foot stores that you have.
Well,
out here.
that's adjustable, obviously.
Okay.
We're a long way from that.
Yeah, I know it's very early concept, but something that serves the neighborhoods of pizzeria or whatever and various things.
I think, too, that you've got a kind of a disconnect between the little bit of retail back and the farmer's market in the front. I think if we can maybe work on a design that brings the farmer's market portion of it closer to the fronts of the stores, but do it in a way that doesn't take away the parking field that all of the shop owners are going to be very zealous about keeping. It's almost like you've got two discrete uses on the site. There ought to be a way to better integrate them. I could see maybe, storefronts that look out over a green on which the farmer's market takes place.
Right, that's kind of what I was getting at.
And that may be a matter of turning the buildings. I think I'd be a little more interested in seeing if we can't slide the building complex, closer to Rochdale Road and away from the houses that are located along the west side of the site. Although I do recall, I think we've got a few houses on the
right over here.
south side, or the
south.
basically the south side of Rochdale Road. But they've already they show a tree grove there, so obviously they're thinking in terms of landscaping. But I think that we can kind of play around perhaps with the layout a bit to bring the farmer's market kind of more a little closer to those stores. And I think that those store owners will benefit. If you've got somebody that's going to pick up something, whatever that may be, if it's a doctor's office or a lawyer, whatever, coming out from an appointment, being able to step across, the drive aisle, an active farmer's market, I would think that'd be a pretty good thing. But you got to bring them closer together.
Excellent comments. Thank you.
If I'm a tenant in one of those retail spaces, I'm not sure I want to be set back that far from the road, unless you have, I mean, when you look at the limitations we have in terms of road signs, if I'm paying rent back there and I have to sell a product, I'm not sure I'd want to have that limited exposure to the road, especially when you have the advantage of a heavily trafficked road.
Yeah, you
Fair
want them a little closer. I don't know if you consider it a restaurant or if they would consider a restaurant as well. Something with outdoor seating along the green space might be a nice feature.
Excellent comment.
Guess the last comment I have is I think the county planning has done some work on this site because it's been there for so long. So you may want to go approach them if they had any other ideas on it, on layouts of buildings or whatnot.
Further comments?
Sure.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your indulgence.
Thanks, Rob.
Peter, are you still interested in having a?
Yes.
Okay. Next thing on the agenda is Fairview Commons. Should we?
It would be a motion to adjourn into attorney-client session.
We've had a request from a member of the board that we adjourn into an attorney-client session to discuss some of the things having to do with this application. So do I hear a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and second that we adjourn into an executive session for attorney-client discussion on this application. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We will be back shortly.
I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, it was right, right too. While you were at the store, you just put the towels.
Well, you have to prove
Painful.
This is a painful.
And what's interesting.
Just gonna take a half break.
Okay.
The original was probably January, February. This was the first time they came in. I don't know what they were doing in between, but
Tonight they did see her.
Kelly, are you plugged in?
I am.
You don't see it?
No.
All right, let me.
Thanks, Sandy. Okay. What?
Jason's gonna be the, what do you call that?
Oh, okay.
He told me he's gotta be your pointer.
Yeah. So what's the deal? Just
I spoke to Rocky at first. He says, "Oh, it shouldn't be any big deal." So I said, "Oh, please." He's reading the plan all. He's reading the plan. That's why I just walked it up and
okay,
around so
that's
he
what I
can
thought.
see.
Yeah. Okay.
And I gotta get Mark's office to clean it up.
Because isn't, like, I thought the
It's
connection was
it's
like,
just
if
a
this is
corner.
Main Street,
Yes.
here's the old yellow house, Mrs. Jackson.
Yes.
I thought the tap was like over here. Or
Yes,
no? Okay.
it is.
So it's literally
Yeah,
like,
it's
it's a
question
it's
of
still
whether-
not,
And you're plugged in. And you have anything on your screen?
yeah, it's on my screen here. Let me do that whole,
Remember that happened last?
yeah, it's always my machine.
It's only your machine, that's why I'm like.
It's like, I
oh,
don't
there's
understand
nothing.
why.
Hit function F8, see what happens.
Is it F8?
I don't know. I thought it was F8.
Remember that happened last month? I
Yeah,
don't.
and what did I do?
Press the button.
Nothing, cause it doesn't, there's nothing up here, I don't see.
It should be on both. It's
Yeah.
still not on. Here, let me unplug into.
See,
I
what
can
did
use
happen
the-
last
let me
month
try
and
the
then it like,
HDMI. Let's try this instead.
I'm like, oh my God, she brought a computer. We have to practice.
Oh, wait, oh, I don't have oh, wait, is that it? I can't see.
No.
No, I
No,
don't
you
think
don't
I
have
have
that.
HDMI, so we're not, then we never use this.
Use that thing?
Yeah, it's always this.
You
then.
sure?
Good thing they did this.
Your screen flashed.
Okay, maybe now it's gonna come up then.
No, it's still nothing.
I think I need a new computer.
I don't know. Let me fool around with, okay, so you don't, but there's something on your screen.
I have it
Okay.
here, yeah. We might have to just go to work. It's like, it just took a few minutes.
Yeah, and it came up.
I don't know what she did.
I guess I don't actually have to.
Ow.
Enclosure, if there's enough room there
To do the
tie
tap.
in. So that was the question I was asking Dave's office, can they do it without closing the
Right.
lane down? Because then it's a
Okay,
lot simpler.
okay.
So.
All right, there it is. Yay. Got it. What was it?
Don't even ask. It was
Okay.
my, but it was
Yeah,
mine.
So next time,
Opposed? Motion carries 5-0. See, it isn't back here yet. So, shall we proceed?
That would be great, thank you. I'm Kelly Leibolt. We are here to discuss hopefully the final site plan components of this project. I think we've gone over the site many, many times, so I won't belabor the details of the project, but just to let you know that in December, the end of December, we did provide you with our, hopefully final submission, just cleaning up some of the questions that the consultants have, some of the comments from the public and the planning board. The site did not change based on the comments that were received, but it was just more dotting i's and crossing t's and discussing engineering and planning comments. So with that, I'll turn it over to you and ask you if you have any additional questions.
Neil?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. Just as a kind of a reminder of where we're at in the process, the board had adopted the negative declaration back in August. The public hearing on the site plan was closed December 18th. Staff has provided the board with a resolution of conditional site plan approval and a resolution of architectural approval. I think it would be appropriate at this time for the members to have a discussion about the resolution, ask any questions you may have of the applicant on the site plan, and to comment on any adjustments that the members of the board may want to see to the site plan.
To start off with, have a question. If I look at the plans that we have in front of us, and even the one that you've got up there, it would appear to me that Sunset is still a one-way in?
No, it's an emergency entrance well, it's a full emergency access, so in and out for emergency access
That's not what
only.
Okay, but that's not really what it shows there.
The reason that it looks like there's two lanes there, Rich, is because if you recall, the adjoining property owner had requested that we provide her with access there. So from a portion of that lane toward, West Cedar, it's two lanes so that she can get out. So there's two arrows there just showing that someone could get in and get out, but from her house back, it's an emergency ingress egress.
Okay.
If I'm not mistaken, though, the original traffic information that was provided back last year had that as a one-way ingress.
The original traffic study only had emergency. Then there was a subsequent traffic study that had it as an entry only.
Correct.
That's correct. And we went through numerous.
If I'm not mistaken,
Yes.
that was the case up until within the last week or so.
Well, we had modified the plan and we had done analysis. We had, within the last week, we compiled in a report all of these various analyses that were done in one comprehensive report to make sure that everything was covered in one location as opposed to multiple documents.
Excuse
I mean,
me.
that site plan does not reflect that.
Right, and Ed, I would add that the latest report also considered the current configuration as emergency access only via West Cedar, but it also incorporated the latest improvements along Fairview Avenue, the improvements to the east and west leg.
Yes.
So it is current.
Yep. Did my best to read that. Did not get through all the other stuff.
I did read it and I issued a letter regarding that.
Yep. Okay, sorry, Rich, I interrupted.
So, I mean, this is a discussion now, so, I mean, if we've got some issues we need to identify and try to get a resolution to, well, why don't we finish with this one?
Well, the question I have is why? Why is it only an emergency entrance now?
I have to go back and figure out what month it was, but there was some point in time that the board expressed a desire for that to not be a.
I don't think it was the board.
I'll have to go, we would have to go back, but there was some comment. We've agreed to everything that was asked of us. So every time someone asked us to do something, the planning board asked us to change something, we changed it. And so that's where we are today as far as an
It
emergency
might be a
access.
different board.
I don't believe it was the town board, but it could have been.
Well, I still don't understand why it has to be only an emergency entrance and exit. It certainly adds traffic to Fairview and Fulton by not having it as a one-way in.
That's correct. We analyzed it both ways, and I said the original was only emergency access. Then we looked at that as a entry only, and I think it might have been in the town board review that the recommendation was not to have that as an access.
Did you ask them why?
I don't recall the reason.
Well, that's my point.
Yeah.
You'd like me to be in favor of your site plan, I'd like it to be one-way in, quite frankly, because it does help the traffic situation on Fairview and Fulton. So that's my comments regarding the traffic.
So, I mean, would you be happy, though, because if I understand correctly, an emergency situation, even though if it was one way in, I mean, the fire department can use it both ways.
Yeah.
They're not.
I would consider the
absolutely.
fire department under an emergency situation can use it any way they want, including going over the grass.
So if that was there as a one-way, not emergency, but just normal ingress
As it was.
Yeah.
And as it was evaluated.
access, then you would be,
I would be very happy with that.
is that something that we can look at doing?
Well, it was that way at one point in time. It's been back and forth and back and forth. So, for the last few months that we've been before this board, I've always presented the same plan, and I've showed a bollard or a gate system there and explained that this was an emergency access and ingress egress. So if we want it to be that way, it's been analyzed before. Mr. Pearson's reviewed it. Everyone's reviewed it as such. So if that's the pleasure of the board,
Can you
then
tell me if there's any problem with a one-way in? Chris?
From a traffic perspective, no.
And the one thing it does do is that you don't have the sight distance problem of people coming out.
Yeah, we talked about that at length. I know we did.
So if it's a one-way in, then that's not a problem.
Exactly.
Does anyone recall what quantity of traffic was expected to use that entrance during?
I believe it was somewhere in the order of 15 to 20% maximum that would enter it that way.
That still alleviates the crowd on Fairview, on Fulton.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, I don't have all of the notes relative to the town board's portion of the prod approval. I know the resolution said that the project would need to be built in substantial accordance with whatever the plan was at that particular time. If it's the desire of the board, and I'm just attempting to try to move the conversation along, if it's the majority of the board wishes for a full one-way access in, and not just for emergency services or for some other configuration, my recommendation would be direct the applicant to prepare the plan in that fashion.
And add it as a
And
condition.
if it's an issue, we'll have to bring it back to this board and possibly to the town board. But in other words, we'll have to reconcile it. But I'm not prepared to be able to do that tonight, but I would like to see if we can't move this along.
Well, what I'm saying is if we passed a resolution to pass it, to move it along.
Yeah.
Accept it.
Right.
We could add that as a condition.
That's exactly what I'm suggesting, yes, is direct, tell the applicant how, and again, we've gone through a number of iterations in the driveways and the offsite improvements. I think this is the final statement for the board's final statement, unless we bring it back, to direct the applicant to point the arrows one way or the other. And like I said, staff will have to reconcile what we'll need to reconcile. We may need to bring it back.
So what is the feeling of the rest of the board?
Well, I just don't know, did the town board approve that one way? Are we going against the town board?
No, I honestly, with the exception of a private conversation I had with the representative for the Fourth Ward, I don't recall that the town board had any discussion about whether it was one-way, two-way emergency. It was whatever was shown on the drawing at the time.
In answer to your question, Joe, I read the town board resolution. It had, I think, 5 conditions. None of them referenced anything with regard to access or.
Right. Yeah, that's exactly it.
Thank you.
Well, this is why we have traffic people that are experts, and I thought it was a pretty good plan back then when we had one-way access, because it took away some of the traffic that was going to be on either Fulton or Fairview.
Yeah,
To alleviate, I mean, how many cars are going to be in and out of this site, roughly?
In the peak hour, a total of about 125 to 130 vehicles in a 1 hour period.
So it's not just, it takes 25 cars off the road then off of.
I mean, I can easily think of the residents over in West Cedar Street wanting to come over and visit their friend.
Right.
So where do you go? So.
Also, that
Helps
access,
tie in the dorm, the different,
all those
Marist
people-
dorms to this project.
that ingress on Sunset also was specifically referenced in the negative declaration for this project.
Right.
That was on August 21,
As a full.
as a condition.
It was an ingress.
Ingress, yes.
The only other concern that I had would be, what do you do with the snow on Fairview Avenue up against that wall? You're going to have to put up a retaining wall, I believe, right? Probably.
Well, there's going to be grading out an area because the right-of-way is pretty wide there. And we were anticipating creating a snow shelf. You're talking about on the easterly leg, on the easterly side.
That's where we got to cut into that wall, right?
We're going to cut into the slope there, correct? And but the right-of-way actually extends back quite a distance. So we're going to grade that back, create a shoulder area beyond the pavement edge.
Did you bring any drawings to represent how you're going to affect that cutting? The road has to be widened about 5 feet.
That's correct.
I measured, cutting in 5 feet, you have already a 5-foot retaining wall.
At the highest point, yes.
You don't have anything. I mean, you're increasing the impervious surface on the road. We don't have any drawings about what kind of materials you're going to be using for the retaining wall or how you're going to handle the drainage coming off that slope, which is considerable.
Well,
There is also a utility pole.
These are all improvements that we're doing on a town road, so everything would be to the town specs, all of the designs, all the drawings. So this is an improvement that we're doing, that's not to mitigate anything that's going on with the project, but just something that we're doing for the town. And so all
As a
those-
planning board, I think we would like to know, what kind of aesthetic are we creating there? And are you going to use stone? Are you using railroad ties, drainage? I mean, these are all wishes. It is a site plan.
Yes.
And don't you think we're entitled to know?
The discussions we had with the highway superintendent, there would be a prefab wall, stone material, it won't be timbers, that the final, we would have to have a permit from him to do the work. As I said, we would grade the area, create an area for snow, in that area. When we first met, his comment was, well, we have the whole other side that the town owns that property to use for snow storage on the lower side, the west,
where
on the
leaf
west
pile
side.
is.
There's a guardrail.
So, but we talked about creating an area beyond the edge of pavement for drainage and to catch any, extra snow area. So those were particulars that we anticipated we were going to take care of as part of the permit with him. So that's basically where we are at this
I
point.
know he's got big front end loaders, and if it's a really bad storm, he
Right.
can always start dumping it over. where
And that's
the
what
leaves are.
he said, so.
But
And that we have to incorporate the
area.
drainage coming off the slope there, but, that's the discussion we had.
guys picked a real easy site.
You could all put one other thing to rest for me. I read the geotech report, which is pretty sobering. You have cut and fill there 27 feet, cut and fill up to 12 feet around the parking areas. You have cut up to 9 feet and fill up to 13 feet to the first floor level of most of the other buildings. Have you looked at that? Do you have a construction manager, or you're the general contractor? How are you going to approach that construction, faced with those kinds of challenges?
A lot of the site grading work was anticipated to be done during the land contour approval that was already approved by the board. So the majority of the cut fill work was intended to be done during that site grading contour work. So there would be an on-site manager, us as site engineers would be there. We've talked to Morris Associates, and as we identified in that, as we exposed the cuts in the areas, we would have them on site to help evaluate the soils on slope stabilization, so we can come up with the best alternative to managing the slope there. You know, as we do fills, typically in any site, there's a site engineer, there's construction managers on site that are controlling the lifts. We do compaction testing. There's different types of methods that we do to ensure that it's filled properly so that we can put a structure on it, because no one wants to do, structural engineers, the architects, everybody. So it would be managed by both ourselves, the town engineers on site as well for inspections, so everyone would be involved on that level.
But when you look at the site, in view of the type of work that's going to have to be done, do you anticipate that any of the buildings are going to have to be relocated?
No.
Resited?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I remember that too, some soft soils in the report.
Cool. In the report, on the first page, Mr. Laux, the engineer, I just want to put this to bed because I just wanted to get it off my mind. It is my understanding that the proposed construction will include 4 2- to 3-story buildings located approximately as indicated on the boring location diagram. Now, clearly, there are 4-story buildings, not 2- and 3-story buildings. Have you discussed this with him?
Mr. Laux is really one of the premier geotech engineers in the area, and so what'll happen is he'll also be involved in this process, and he will ultimately be the person that ends up designing the foundations and working with us on all of those
I
footings.
understand. But if the basis of his report, if the foundation is that he was using as a model a 2-story building instead of a 4-story building, and I'm not an engineer by any means, what effect, if any, does that have on some of the conclusions that he's drawn in this report? Have you discussed that with him?
Yes, we have discussed that with him. He's been involved in really every step of the process. And so it's his understanding, he understands that this was a site layout that evolved. You know, we had buildings that moved from the beginning to the end, and we had buildings that were modified. And so what happens is, once we're done with this site plan, we provide all that information to him. LRC will work with him on the development of those footings and those foundations, and they'll all get submitted to Morris Associates
I
for their
understand.
review.
My question is his study based on a model that's a 2-story building or a 4-story building?
That was the assumption at the time when he did the geotech report.
So then these conclusions may not be accurate.
No, I don't think that that's the case. What happens is when they do a geotech report, well, do you want to chime in?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, when they do this geotech report, we give them a preliminary layout, we give them a design. And so he's evaluating the soils. He's not designing the buildings at that point. He's looking at what's in the ground. That's what he did. And so when he goes to design those buildings, he'll use what's in the ground to design the footings for the buildings.
I know. The next paragraph, he goes on to describe the column loadings and settlement tolerances. Wouldn't the column loadings and settlement tolerances be different for a 2-story building than they would be for a 4-story?
When he designs those footings, he'll take that into consideration, correct?
And he didn't use those in his report?
But what he wasn't
assumptions.
preparing was a design. What he's doing is analyzing what's in the ground. That's all that he's
I
doing.
understand
He's
that.
providing us with that information. So we use that information to base how we do our grading, and how we do our compaction tests, and how we do our fill.
Did you mention this to him when you read the report?
Did I mention it
Or
to him?
it's not material?
We work with him all the time on these projects, yes.
And what is the current status of your effort to obtain the Sunset Avenue
We've
title.
received all the final deeds back and plan on filing them with the county shortly. There should be a closing within the next few months.
Next few months?
We'll provide you with, I have all the deeds, so I just received them a few days ago.
Your response to that same question in October was that the applicant's attorney is currently finalizing the deed and transfer documents. The reason I'm asking you that question is because Sunset Avenue is a pretty important aspect
It is.
of this property. And we have been asking you on a fairly regular basis about what the progress is that you're making. That's why we're interested. The last item that I have, I noticed on the landscape plan, can we talk about landscaping now? At the entrance on Fulton, you have someone, whoever designed the landscaping, has a set of 40 maple trees situated right at the entrance to Fulton Avenue. I'm just wondering if you meant to do that. Because you know maples not only grow tall, but they grow just about as wide. They grow tall. And is it possible that they made a mistake?
Our landscape architect from our office did the site layout. If there's a concern over the specific trees, we went to talk to that. I'm not a landscape architect, I can't answer that specifically, but.
Do you understand what my question?
I do.
Because you have an entrance right on a very busy street. You have birch and maple trees that will grow to 40 feet high and probably almost as wide, generate a lot of leaves and maintenance for you. I'm just wondering if maybe there might be another choice out there that would provide better sight distance and less maintenance.
Well, the
for your
trees
benefit.
are set up to avoid sight distance issues, you know what I mean? Because they would have a higher canopy and as they grow up and that type thing. As far as leaf litter and that type, debris and maintenance, that's, kind of on the owners of the property. Should it be
Trying to
something
help.
that they want to change because of that, we would look at
Well,
alternates.
not only did we have their landscape architect do this plan, we actually sent this to our landscaper. So we have an in-house landscaper and gave that to him as well. And so it's been looked at and reviewed by two different, professionals for landscaping. So
Well,
we can
that may
look
be
at it.
so. I mean, I'm not a landscape architect. I know when I pull out onto a street, I want to be able to see who's coming. That's why I made that comment.
I had one last question regarding the entrance, and there is no pull-off lanes to go coming either west-wise or east-wise that would allow for you to pull off and let traffic go by you as you're trying, especially the left-hand turn.
There are no separate left turn lanes or right turn lanes. The radius for the right turn coming in, the curb line is set
Yeah, that
back.
one I'm not so worried about. It's the left-hand turn in there that is still a concern, but is there enough room or not to try to do something like that?
Well, we start running into right-of-way as we go to the west of us in order to get back in. So right on our frontage, there's room for that. What we could do is put in, additional shoulder width along the frontage. But once we go to the west, because remember, we're making sure we can get that sidewalk in, and then we have the trail crossing. You can't get back in.
The sidewalk ends way before, I don't think there's any sidewalk coming up to the
No,
end.
we're actually extending the sidewalk all the way down.
But to make the proper taper from that extra lane back, we're back down to where the crossing is, and we don't have width.
Well, whatever you can do in that regard.
Okay.
I'd like to hear from Liz and Don regarding the project as well.
Well.
Seeing as it's your back.
I don't want to repeat anything about the status. But basically, the summary comments that I had basically indicated that there are some refinement type comments, site plan standard comments, but that I had felt that most of the remaining comments could be addressed as conditions of approval. And then, the rest of my report basically indicated that if the planning board was in agreement, that they could consider site plan approval. Again, if you start from my page 3 on, these are primarily, what I would consider to be, filling in the rest of the information that we need and refinement type comments, clarifying issues that have been substantially addressed. So, I don't really have any further comments other than what's written in my review letter.
The sidewalks are all concrete, no asphalt?
Yes. And the pedestrian pathway looked fine to me.
I can summarize my comments pretty quickly. Our first comment was about the SWIP. We have a separate memo that was provided to you, I believe, today, that basically there's a few items left, but the majority of them are taken care of. Our second comment was similar to Mr. Finelli's about the geotech report, and we were asking for some more specifics. We're not concerned necessarily that they won't be able to design it. We were just asking for specifics on how they were going to design it. Third comment dealt with sewer and more specifics again on the design. And fourth comment pretty much covered by Rich and traffic. And then the fifth comment was just a bunch of cleanup items. So we've whittled down this comment letter pretty substantially over the past few months.
Thank you.
I have a quick question for Mr. Pearson. Something that would save the developer and everybody else a lot of time and aggravation, something I don't honestly understand. We're going to do all this work to the east and west legs of the Fairview Avenue extension. I don't understand, why do we have to do any work at all there? It's been there, those streets have been there being used by cars probably for 70 years. I can understand having to make some adjustments. There was a plan at one time to come out on Fairview from the project. That changed, and we came back to going out on Fulton. It seems to work extremely well if we just left it alone. Is there some compelling reason why we have to make these changes to the Fairview Avenue extension?
From a capacity standpoint,
yes.
The intersections would function without substantial delays from a capacity standpoint. Without the improvements, there were concerns expressed over time by the board and others, I believe, about some of the travel speeds along the roadway, and certainly some of the signs regarding the site distance at the eastern leg of Fairview Avenue relative to Fulton Street for the crest or the vertical curve coming for westbound traffic. The proposed stop sign there would alleviate that. The improvements along Fairview itself were primarily related to controlling speeds with the wide radius and people making that turn.
I could, also to add to that, the main instigation of this change in the traffic and so forth came at the request of the board and of the traffic supervisor, or the supervisor of roads, Mark Pfeiffer.
Highway supervisor.
Was the one that was, because he's had a major safety problem there.
But the traffic report indicated that there was really no record that I can recall of any accidents at those intersections. And I know there were accidents at Beck Place. There were accidents on the other end of Fulton at 9G. But at that intersection, as far as I can recall from your report, there weren't any.
Yeah, but that's not what we've heard from the police and from the, so,
Well, I'm sure he has had good records. I'm sure they did the research.
Phil, are you able to summarize the accident report data in the traffic study?
Yeah, I think the issue in terms of the highway superintendent's comments were twofold. Number one is on the easterly leg of Fairview, in the stretch where we're widening it, there is two-way flow today. And while there weren't reportable accidents, people, being forced off the edge of the road. So they were the type of things that he felt from a safety standpoint, and again, not added traffic from this project, but to handle the traffic that was there today, to make that a two-way width, because it's already handling two-way traffic. That was number one. Number two, with respect to the westerly leg, one of the issues there, again, was related to the speed of traffic coming off of Fulton onto Fairview. And the modifications there were an attempt to try to calm the speeds. So I think in the discussions we had with this highway superintendent, those were the two driving forces. As you said.
No pun intended.
Yes.
I think there was an issue with the fire trucks left onto that extension
To
as
be
well.
able to get on the
And making
extension.
sure that was wide
cut-
enough for them.
Absolutely.
Right.
And that was the reason for the width, was to handle the two-way traffic, including emergency vehicles, yes.
And I had discussed the width of the eastern leg early on in the process and questioned whether that should be a one-way flow and which direction should it be one-way. And it ultimately evolved to where we are today.
This has
I
been
think
an
it's,
amazing project. There's been so much discussion about roadway and entrances and all of that.
Yeah, the problem is that a lot of these improvements that we are doing voluntarily are because the town wanted to do them forever and didn't do them, and so they're kind of tagging it on us.
And
I
us.
think that it's important to note that it's not, mitigation for the project. This was something that has been really, the tails wag the dog, and unfortunately, we're here now in January, primarily because of a lot of the confusion regarding the off-site improvements. And it's kind of unfortunate that that's what's dragged and delayed this project. I mean, it's really,
Quite frankly,
really
that's
what's
why I
happened.
suggested that you go back to where it was, the one-way entrance on Sunset.
I guess I'd like to see that too, just to have,
Do we have any,
have that offset of traffic.
do we have any further discussion about?
That's probably, until we get to architecture.
The only other comment I would make is that, intersection on the east leg with Fulton, the stop sign on the hill, even with a warning light, I think is unsafe. I just don't think it's safe. I think they all should be eliminated. The light should be eliminated, the stop sign should be eliminated. It's been there like that for many, many, many years with really no discernible problems. I think we're making making the situation worse. There's no sight distance at the intersection of, on the northeast intersection of Fulton and the east leg of Fairview. There was very limited sight distance. People are accustomed to making that left-hand turn, the west leg of Fairview Avenue. Thank you.
Is that?
My nagging.
I would like to make a motion to amend the proposed Town of Poughkeepsie Planning Board resolution of conditional site plan approval and resolution of architectural approval in the matter of Fairview Commons. The amendments I would like to make are on page 4, paragraph 4, whereas access to the project would be via one primary driveway providing access from Fulton Street with a emergency access to West Cedar Avenue that would also provide for continued access to the adjacent existing single-family lot N.F. Simons located at West Cedar Street, and the change there would be following access from Fulton Street with emergency access to West Cedar would be changed to access from Fulton Street with a one-way ingress access from West Cedar Street that would also provide for continued access to the adjacent existing single-family Simons located on 21 West Cedar Street. And on page 5 would be the second whereas on page 5, which is the third paragraph, whereas the planning board has considered the CGR report as well as summary presentation of the report by the Fairview Fire District at the December 18th, 2014 public hearing and has determined that the report concerns cumulative effects of both active and potential continuing. Modify the phrase December 18th, 2014 public ed hearing, comma, which report purports to analyze cumulative effects of both active, potential, and so forth.
While we're still on that subject, I just want to modify your amendment with specific language that if the applicant is unable to obtain Sunset Avenue, the rights to Sunset Avenue, that it should be brought back to the board, not to staff, but should be
Well, but
brought back to
that's a condition of site plan, so.
That's,
I understand.
that'll happen anyway.
It's a specific condition.
We'll get to there. In fact, that's, and then on page 7, the third whereas, far down in that paragraph, aside requirements of the PROD that limit places on the site for installation of such recreation facilities, that pursuant to 274 sub 6 sub A of the town law should be changed to pursuant to 274 sub 6 C of the town law.
That's actually fine.
And the final amendment,
Actually not quite. So you're gonna have a new 11,
okay.
12.
On page 13, just prior to the, and be it further resolved, there should be a addition of number 11 condition, amend the site plan to provide full one-way ingress from West Cedar Street, is item 11 on that list. And then there's an item 12, revise landscaping at the Fulton Street site to address planning board concerns and to ensure sight lines are protected. And where was the sunset thing?
I believe that should be site access,
No.
Fulton Street site access.
I'm sorry, which one was that? This was the condition.
I wasn't sure if it was English.
That Peter was referring to.
Okay, to show that.
Yeah, right. If
Yeah.
you want to beef it up.
For information, provide information acceptable to the director and the planning board attorney showing that the applicant has acquired fee title to and otherwise obtained legal right to make improvements to and to utilize the proposed driveway connecting West Cedar Street. So, I mean, that has to be to the satisfaction of our, otherwise it has to come back
That's
to
a
the board.
specific requirement.
Okay. Is that acceptable, Peter?
Yes, thank you.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that the resolution be modified or amended as I just stated. I have a copy that you can use to.
Just for one last discussion, I'd certainly appreciate an updated copy of this tomorrow morning or whenever.
Yep.
Seeing as it's being voted on this evening.
Okay,
get
so
that to you.
it's been moved and seconded. I call the question. Oh, any other discussion?
Nope.
I call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Reasons that we discussed in executive session, I will abstain.
The motion passes 5-0 with one abstention.
I'd also comment that I was going to abstain as well, but I owe it to, I think, the developers and as well as the pages for trying to make this project happen. And due to some other circumstances, I support the project. Wish you the best.
Thank you.
Okay, final motion. I move that the planning board grant conditional approval of the site plan application in accordance with the site plan approval resolution dated 17 15 to 2015 as amended, subject to the conditions imposed by the town board in its prod designated October 1, 2014, subject to the acceptance of the applicant response by the planning department as to adequacy and completeness in regard to the comments of the planning board and the comments of the town departments, planning board consultants, and other agencies, including but not limited to A through J, which is the town engineer, town consultant, JMC, town planning consultants' comments, town wetlands consultants, Aspen Environmental, zoning administrator comments, water department comments, sewer department complex, highway department comments, Dutchess County Department of Health comments, and the building department review. I call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Abstain.
Motion passes 5-0 with one abstention.
Thank you.
We're going to do the architecture review now?
Yeah, you should.
We're here to do it.
They made such a mess.
Good care, Rich.
Everything's still covered.
Thank you, Rich.
Yeah.
They did the yard, they attract a lot of birds. I didn't see who. I didn't see who was laying on the roads and birds and all those. Awful. What do they think extent goes in?
Oh, you're back.
Yeah. But he had an idea.
Traffic consultant. And it might have been practiced
Who's the
before
guy coming in the door
automobiles
over
fell
there?
prevalent. You know, because it just used to.
Oh,
crash
my
the
God.
car.
Come on, he's right on time.
Yeah.
Architecture review.
Yeah. I know. What's Teresa?
Should give him a hard time.
About time you got here, Mike.
Snowstorm?
Okay, so if we could do the architectural review?
Yep.
Okay. This is Don Petricola, in case you guys forgot who it was, from Lisco McCormick Van Voorhees.
Staying in for other people, right?
Yes.
Who is now here, but you know.
It might be.
All right, so we have the building renderings up on the screens. These are the building elevations. The exterior architecture is really very simple, very traditional, classic, residential type materials. The first and second floor are going to be varying heights in a thin brick system. The brick is an Endicott, wire cut, rose blend brick. It's down here. If I need to lift this up, let me know. So this is the Endicott brick here. The siding above the brick is going to be a mix of two types of James Hardie product. One is a 8-inch clapboard siding, pre-finished in a natural beige. They're currently they changed the numbers since we did the board, the names, and it's called a Navajo beige. I believe the rendering refers to it as a Navajo white. So these areas here are 8-inch clapboard in a Navajo beige. The areas above that are going to be done in, again, similar to the James Hardie product, in a panel, smooth panel with 4-inch battens, and that will be done in an Arctic white. The cornice on the top of the building will be built up. Pardon?
I said that's appropriate for now, Arctic white.
Arctic white, that's right. The cornice will be built up with an AZAC material, which again is a composite type of material. Built up flat stock in the profiles indicated. The windows are intended to be a Marvin Integrity window product. The Integrity is a composite fiberglass window. They're simply 1/1 window types, and those are going to be the same throughout all portions of the building. And that's it in a nutshell.
Where are you getting the windows from?
Home Depot, I heard.
Discussion from the board?
Trying to figure out where to buy stock to. I just had a question on the roofs. It's a flat roof design. You didn't like my green roof idea, but did you have the HVAC hidden properly, if there's HVAC up there? Or is the HVAC going to be on the ground somewhere?
The chillers are going on the ground, aren't they?
Yeah, everything, that's why I just wanted to
Yeah.
check. Everything's going on the ground.
Yes.
Okay, because it didn't look like the parapet was that high at the top, so I was.
Yes.
No. It's getting very, very short.
You have a building there that's the length of a football field, 300 feet, and it's going to be 50 feet high. Is there any way that you can break up the building? I mean, it's a long building, it's monolithic, it says dormitory. Is there anything that you can do, any design that you can bring to that building that would, something else?
Well, what we've tried to do, and to keep this from being a massive wall, is to try and break the facade up. Now, granted, we're not talking 4 and 5 foot breaks in the facade, but we are talking enough to create shadow lines. And then that would be accentuated by the differing materials. That and the fact that, yes, it's a 300 long building, but it's in an S shape. So I think that we've got, with the varying 3 materials and changing the heights in those materials, as well as the fact that the building breaks at 90 degrees, I don't think that the building massing is going to be as imposing as, say, something like Conklin Hall, which is a big straight line.
Peter, if you
got
can
those-
look at the plan that I have up on the screen, and on the left-hand side, you can see where the glass doors are. Although the board is helpful that we have up here, it really doesn't fairly represent what the building is. So you see on the board, one long flat building, but as John had indicated, the building is S-shaped. So the glass doors on the building here, where there's breaks in the building, are really just shown flat on the board that you see in front of you.
One of the drawings that I had, that you had submitted, showed one length of that building, although it may be S-shaped, to be 300 feet in length. Was it incorrect?
I'll tell you, looking at the renderings, it looks like a big apartment building, but that's what it is.
Yes, you're correct.
It is 300 feet. It's a long distance. I'm wondering, how many, you show one entrance on the north elevation on the right end of the building. Is there another entrance to that building somewhere else?
Yes. Can you pull up one of the building plans, site plan again? Even the site plan will do, that'll do. The entrances are on a 45-degree corner of the building. You don't have a laser pointer, do you?
Carl, do you have the thing?
You know what?
You got an entrance here.
Right there.
And then do you
It
have-
goes through the building to
Yeah,
the
an
back.
entrance
So
in the
we've got
middle
a
back.
front and a back.
Much clearer.
And there's also another entrance down from the center courtyard side in the
Something at the-
interior corner.
On the building on the north?
Right there, yep.
Yeah, where the
Correct.
sidewalks are.
So
The
we've
building
got 3 entrances, the others are essentially emergency exits.
The north,
So follow the sidewalks to see where they are.
where are the entrances on the north building, the one you're on right now?
The same,
Right
the
here.
same,
The same.
through
One
the
right-
corner
one
of the
right
building,
here.
from the
Corner.
one parking
And this
lot
corner.
to the courtyard, straight through the building, front and back, as well as the interior corner from the courtyard.
I see a
Is that-
sidewalk here too, is there like?
That's emergency exit.
Emergency exit there, okay.
It's a long walk. I mean, if I'm carrying books or groceries, that's why I asked the question, trying to figure, what kind of a load are the tenants gonna have to get from point A to point B? And what the distance will be. So, I guess your response is that you think that the design is sufficient to basically satisfy the market.
Correct.
You do have an awful lot of parking down there, limited entrance.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
You have an awful lot of parking down here, but you gotta go up to the, you gotta go up here to get in, basically.
Yes. Yep, and there's a sidewalk system there. The intent is that it's a common core. That's the common core area in the front.
Elevators?
Yes.
Yes.
You could get those moving sidewalks like they have in some of the airports.
Yeah, of course, it's,
A lot of parking.
of course.
I thought that was a good idea.
Getting late, hey, Rich?
You're gonna have a lot of empty parking.
Well, no, some of the parking's for.
Yes, thank you, Liz.
What's the pleasure of the board? Do I hear a motion on the architectural review?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you do it. You're the senior. No,
Tell you what, I will make a motion. I move that we accept architectural review as presented with the materials and so forth presented.
Second.
There you go.
It's been moved and seconded that we accept architectural review as presented. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you.
Just an extension.
Now we can proceed on to the next step.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Good luck.
Certainly.
We'll just need to have the, excuse me, Kelly, we'll just need to have the, do we have color renderings already?
Yeah, I get a lot of them.
Okay, the samples, unfortunately, we'll need samples.
Item D1 on the agenda, Stratford Farms Townhouses, time extension of final major subdivision approval and site plan approval for 26 individual townhouse lots, a common area lot, and site improvements on a 6.832 area parent lot with previously approved 185 lot subdivision. Stratford Drive, zoned R-4A, residential single-family 4-acre. Seeker negative declaration on file, ABD Stratford LLC owner. Just the
Staff recommendation that the planning board grant a 90-day time extension of site plan approval and a final majority subdivision approval from February 17th to August 17th, 2015.
Here's second.
I have a question.
Yep.
I have a question. We currently need to address items raised by the planning department letter to Mark Day dated February 25th, 2013. What issues, they're 2 years old. Do we know what those issues are and why they haven't been addressed?
I believe Dan Gayron addressed the board at the time of the last extension in, I don't recall, it was a few months, probably either 3 or 6 months ago. And I believe my recollection's a little vague, but I think he simply indicated that they have conditions to address, the market is slow.
There are three assertions here, A, B, and C. Do we have any knowledge that these are accurate? All permits and approvals, there's been no change in a relevant statute, that there have been no intervening changes in the physical or environmental setting of the project land or nearby lands. Do we know that?
That's correct. All those are correct, yeah. I mean.
Okay,
yeah.
good. As long as what we have in it.
Yeah, I mean, it remains true as long as you grant the extension. Everything else is as he is represented.
And again, the other part to that question is he has issues that had been raised by the planning department, still have not been addressed for 2 years. It seems like a long time. I mean, and if they're requesting these extensions, what is the circumstance that prevents them from fulfilling that obligation?
I spoke with Dan Guerin about a month or so ago, and he's indicating that it's the economy. And again, we're talking specifically about the townhomes.
If they're talking about items raised by the planning department, planning department didn't raise the economy.
No, he's talking about the conditions of the original approval, I believe. That's the way we have taken that. So
The planning department, the letter of the planning board's decision goes to the applicant on letterhead. It's a letter from the planning department, on planning department letterhead signed by the chairman that indicates the decision.
So your answer to the question is that it's not of any concern, that whatever they had to address has been satisfied effectively.
they've made no attempt to satisfy them on the basis that they don't believe they yet have a project to go forward. One of the things that when they assuming they find a buyer, assuming they find, whatever it is that they're doing, we expect at that point in time that we will see them start to bring forward the legal agreements and start to satisfy the conditions.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, assume
But they're gonna start spending money, escrow, and they're trying to avoid doing that. Yeah.
It's been moved and seconded that we provide two 90-day extension site plan approval and final major subdivision approval from February 17, 2015 forward to August 17, 2015. Did I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. We have one final. Stratford Farms Water Booster Station time extension for the approved site plan for the 293 square foot single story water pressure booster station. Lot 11, Stratford Drive, zoned R4A, residential single family 4 acre, 1.896 acres, ABD Stratford LLC owners. The applicant has requested a 1-year time extension for this project, which expires February 15, 2015. Planning Board granted a final site plan approval on February 15, 2007, a modified site plan approval on April 19, 2007, and several time extensions since then under the previous zoning law, which did not limit them. The Planning Board Department recommends that the Planning Board grant a 12-month time extension from February 15, 2000 forward to February 15, 2016.
So moved.
Does that mean that there can be no more?
On this one, no, that's not what it means.
This one is unlimited.
So it's under the previous.
It's under the 2007.
It's been moved that the Planning Board grant the 12-month time extension from February 15, 2011 forward to 2015, forward to February 15, 2016. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Been moved and seconded. I call the question. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Do you have anything else to discuss?
I really hope not.
I move that the meeting be terminated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Been moved and seconded that the meeting be terminated. All those in favor? Aye.
I know, I like it.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0.
Terminate.